guys, welcome back to my channel. I hope you guys are all doing well. I got a request to do a halo cut crease as well as a look using the Jaclyn Hill palette, so I went ahead and kind of combined those two requests into this tutorial. So I started off priming my eyes using the Makeup Revolution Concealer as I usually do, and then I'm going to go ahead and jump into eyeshadows. The first color I'm using from the Jaclyn Hill palette is Hunts, and I'm starting off with the outer corner and inner corner first, packing the color on, and then I'm going to go ahead and connect the two sides in the middle. That just kind of helps me create like more of like that rounded shape, so I'm not like overdoing it and smoking it out on the corner, on the outer corner too far. Next, I'm going into the shade Creamsicle. I'm using this color to diffuse the edges of that last shade that I used, so I'm going in with very little of this eyeshadow, and I'm just making sure to really blend out the outer corners of that last eyeshadow that I used. If you need to, go ahead and go back in with that shade Hunts, and just to kind of redefine it in case you're losing a little bit of that orange shade there. But the main focus with this eye color is just to blend out the edges. So once that's done, I go into the shade Chip, and I'm just gonna go ahead and repeat the same steps that I used for that orange eyeshadow. So inner corner and outer corner first, and then kind of connecting the two sides in the center. And I'm making sure to, again, pack this color on really, really well because I do want this eye look to still be kind of smoky. So I'm making sure to get the crease really dark and everything. And then I'm going back in with Hunts just to make sure that the edges are well blended and there's no harsh lines. So once my crease colors are on, I'm gonna go ahead and start cutting my crease and creating like that halo effect and everything. So I'm using the Makeup Revolution Concealer again, but this time, instead of kind of going all the way throughout the crease, I'm gonna go ahead and just focus this on the inner part of my eyelid. So I'm applying the concealer on the center and then looking up to create that guide for me. So once I have like my guide, I'm just gonna go ahead and start creating that cut crease and making sure to leave the inner and outer corners open for the eyeshadows that I'm going to apply there next. Now I want to go ahead and start blending out the concealer on the inner and outer corners. So I'm using Chip first to blend out the edges, and that's just going to kind of give us that start to the gradient effect that I want to create into the lightest color on the inner part of the lid. So I'm using a really small brush just to get into the inner and outer corners of my eyes and really making sure to blend out the edges of that concealer. Then to blend out Chip, I'm going in with the shade Hunts to continue that gradient effect. Next, I'm going in with Cream Custard from Makeup Addiction. This is from their Vintage palette, and I'm applying this all over the lid space. This is going to be the lightest of the colors that I'm using on the lid. So once I have the lid space filled in with that cream color, I'm gonna go back in with Creamsicle and just make sure that the edges of that cream eyeshadow is blended into Hunts, which is the orange color that we use. And that's pretty much it for the lid space. I'm gonna go ahead and prep my lashes with some mascara and then add some lashes. The lashes that I'm using today are from Bold Face Makeup, and these are in the style Bigger is Better. Then once my lashes are on, I'm gonna go ahead and pause with the eyes for a second and move on to skin. I'm first gonna moisturize my skin using the Nivea Creme. This is a pretty thick cream, so if you prefer like more water weight type of moisturizers, you might not like this one, but I just really like the formula of it and how thick it is, and it just kind of makes my skin feel really nice, especially now that it's getting really warm outside and my skin's been feeling kind of dry. Next, I'm gonna go ahead and prime my skin using the Becca First Light Priming Filter. This is my favorite primer to use because it does have more of like a luminous feel to it. So it looks great underneath a lot of different foundations, like dewy, including dewy and matte foundations. So I'm just gonna go ahead and apply this primer using a brush and just really make sure that the skin is nice and saturated. For foundation today, I'm using the Fenty Beauty Pro Filter foundation. I'm in the shade 370. I used a flat foundation brush to apply this. It's probably the reason why it looks like I'm using a lot of product, but I definitely used the same amount of product that I would typically use for foundation. I just made sure to really spread it really well using the brush, and then I'm gonna go over it using my sponge just to make sure I get that really like nice airbrushed feel. Then once my foundation is on, I like to go in with concealer. I wanted to use my Kat Von D Lock-It Concealer, but I picked up a shade that's a little too light for me, so I'm using the ColourPop No Filter Concealer as well, just to make sure that the concealer isn't too light. So I'm gonna go ahead and highlight all the places that I typically highlight, so underneath the eyes, forehead, Cupid's bow, chin, a little bit on the nose today, just because I kind of wanted like that nose highlight a little bit. And yeah, I'm just gonna go ahead and blend that out using a brush, then go back in with my sponge again. And of course, you want to make sure you set after you apply all of your liquid and cream products. So now I'm going in with the Airspun powder. This is the translucent one. And I noticed that it did make my under eyes a little bit brighter than I wanted it to. So I'm going to go in with the powder later on just to kind of tone it down a little bit, because it is a little bit brighter than I wanted. But I'm going to go show you guys what I used to tone it down later on. But for now, I'm gonna go ahead and start bronzing my skin up using my Black Radiance True Complexion contouring palette. I'm taking the two contouring and sculpting shades and just using that to bronze up my skin and kind of bring some warmth back into the look. So the powder that I used to tone down the brightness underneath my eyes is from Covergirl. This is their Vitalist Healthy Powder. I can't remember the name of this powder, but I will put it in the description box for you guys. I actually really like the texture of this as well. It's really soft and it's not like super full coverage or anything like that. So it was perfect for what I needed it for, which is basically just to kind of just tone down like the brightness of everything. I'm going back in with Hunts to smoke out the lower lash line. Then I'm gonna go ahead and use Creamsicle again and use that color to blend out Hunts. And then I'm using Chip again just to kind of finish up the eyes and really bring like the upper lash line and lower lash line together and continue like that smoky effect that I'm going for. Next, I went in with the eyeshadow Whisper from Makeup Addiction. This is from their Flaming Love palette, and I'm using this on the inner corners and brow bone just to brighten those areas as well. After that, I'm going to go ahead and start working on my brows. I'm using the Anastasia Dip Brow Pomade in Ebony today. I wanted a little bit of a bolder brow, so I kind of went a little heavier with my dip brow product, but I did want more of like a feathered look, so I went ahead and also added some hair-like strokes to the inner part of my brow as well. Then to fuse all those powders together, I'm going in with my Covergirl setting spray. Even though I'm using a matte foundation, I still wanted my skin to be nice and glowy, so I added a little bit of the Artist Couture Diamond Glow powder to the setting spray in the shade Conceited. So that way it kind of helps me give like that glowy effect even if I'm still doing like a matte foundation. For my highlight, I'm using the Omrizi highlight with Anastasia, and I'm applying this onto all the usual areas, so cheekbones. I applied a little bit more onto the inner corners and brow bone for a little bit of extra brightness, forehead, nose, and Cupid's bow, as well as my chin. Last but not least, I'm going to go ahead and start working on my lips. I'm using the NYX Slide On Lip Liner in the shade Urban Cafe. I love the formula of this lip liner because it's super smooth and there's no like pulling or tugging as you're applying it, and they're super inexpensive as well. I'm then going to fill in the lips using Jouer's Lip Cream in the shade Creme Brulee. This is a really cute, like peachy type of color. So I'm just going to apply some onto the lips and blend everything out using my fingers. Then finishing off the lips using a gloss from Peaches and Cream. This one is in the shade Fudge. And that pretty much completes this look. I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. If you did, make sure to give it a thumbs up and leave me a comment down below. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and hopefully I will see you guys in my next video.